All right, let's continue on the second video here. All right, so 1-9, again, the practice problems that we've been working on in class, working problems number 16 through 46. Okay, so let's look at number 16, okay, and in number 16, you'll find that the problem is, let's see, we've got 17 divided by 20. And again, little crisscross, the 17 is being divided by 20. And at this point, I think we pretty much realize we're going to at least need a 0.0. So let's go ahead and add that right from the get-go. 20 doesn't go into 17, so right away I've got to go to that. And so 20 goes into 170 8 times, and so we get 160 when we multiply. We get 10 when we subtract. Add one more 0, bring it down, and 20 goes into 100 5 times, and there's my answer, 0.85. Let's continue right on while we're still on this screen. I believe that the next question is number 26, and number 26 is actually set up as a division. No, same thing, crisscross. So let's go ahead and just set it up as a division. It's 16.8 divided by 2.4. Now this is the first one we've got with a decimal out front, and so as we've learned in our second video from 1-9, you cannot divide by a decimal. So we move it 1 to the right there, and we move it 1 to the right here, and we float the little decimal up top right here. Okay, and now we're asking really how many times does 24 go into 168? Okay, and so we're going to try 7 right off the bat, and 7 times 4 is 28. Carry the 2. And 7 times 2 is 14, plus 2 gives us exactly 16. We subtract, and we are done in one step. The answer is just 7.0, or better yet, just 7. Okay, so that's 16 and 26. The next problem is number 28, and I think we're going to need a new screen for this one. So let's go ahead. Number 28. Number 28 is also 10.54 is written as a standard division. Oops, that didn't come out so good. Divided by 0.17. And so we're going to put the 0.17 up front, and we're going to divide that into 10.54. Okay, and that's actually a little close together. Let's move this down just a little bit so we got a little bit of room. And let's go ahead and divide this. Okay, so we can't divide by 0.17. The rule is get rid of the decimal. So we move it 2 places to the right. We have to do the same thing here and move it 2 places to the right, put the decimal up top, and so basically we're asking ourselves how many times does 17 go into 1054? Okay, well, we're probably going to need some side problems on this one. Let's try 17 times 7. Let's see, we get 49 when we do that, carry the 4, and we're going to get a total of 119. That's too much, so let's try 17 times 6. That's going to be 42. And 6 times 1 plus 4 is 102. So I think that's where we're going to start. So we'll take the 6, and we'll put that on the top line. And 6 times 17, we've already done the work. It's 102. We'll subtract, and we get a difference of 3. That is definitely less than 17, so bring down the 4. And sure enough, 17 goes into 34 exactly twice. So we do the math, we multiply, we subtract, and we get a remainder of 0. So the answer for this one is just 62.0. Okay. Okay, we're almost done. 2 more questions. All right. Number 34. Number 34 is 10.126, and that's being divided by, it wasn't written this way in the book, but we're going to go ahead and just translate it, by 2.3. Okay. The decimal cannot stay in the divisor, so we move it 1 place to the right. We have to do the same thing here. We move it 1 place to the right. So the new decimal, a little hard to see, it's going to be right there between the 1 and the 2. Okay, so be careful about how we do that. 23 almost goes into 101 5 times, but I think it's only going to go in 4 times. So let's go ahead and put a 4 up here. Oops. All right, I'm having a little trouble technically. There we go. And 3 times 4 is 12, carry a 1. And so we're going to get 92. We subtract. A little bit of work here. Don't overdo this. So you take away from that. This is going to become a 10 here, but that's going to eventually become a 9. Sorry, it's not writing very well. And so 12 minus 2 is 9, and 9 minus 9 is just Nothing, so we get a remainder of 9, which is less than 23. Error. Sorry about that. Bring down the 2. And so now 23 goes into 92. Well, we already know the answer. It's going to go in 4 times. Okay, let's make the decimal white so it matches the rest. So we get 92. We subtract. We get a remainder of 0. Bring down the 6. 23 doesn't go into 6 at all, so let's just go ahead and put a 0. We're not quite done yet, so let's go ahead and add an extra 0 and bring it down. And 23 goes into 60 twice, and that'll give us 46 when we multiply. We subtract, and we get 14. Okay, so now we're going to stop here, and we're going to look back at the original directions, because this is obviously going to keep going. And so the directions for number 34 said to find each quotient, but to round each answer to the nearest hundredth. So right now, look at the places we've gone out. We've gone out tenths, hundredths, thousands. And so by going to the thousands place, we know that if we round to the nearest hundredths, we're going to get approximately 4.40, because the next digit would have been a 2. So we don't put anything down there, we don't put a 0, we just stop right there, and rounded to the nearest hundredth, our quotient is, which is the answer when we divide, is 4.40. So this problem is actually done, even though it would technically keep going. And for those of you that maybe went 6 or 7 steps on this one, again, this is why it's so important to read directions, okay? In fact, if you had continued to divide this, you would have gotten 4.40260869. It would have continued quite a ways. So follow directions. Once you get to this 2, you can stop and you can round. All right, we only got one more problem to do, so let's wrap it up here. So number 46 is about gas mileage, and they specifically tell us that in order to do gas mileage, what we do is we take the number of miles driven and we divide by the number of gallons of gas used. And so in this question for number 46, they say we drove 414.3 miles and we did it using 6.6 gallons of gas. So there's our division problem. And that's another way to write division. It's not always the division sign or this. Okay, the same thing happens though. The top number is the number being divided. So we're going to go ahead and put that down underneath the division bar. And the front number is going to be the number that we divide by, so in this case 6.6. Again, we can't divide by a decimal, so we move the decimal 1 to the right. And now we ask ourselves, how many times does 66 go into 41? Well, the answer is none. How many times does 66 go into 414? Well, let's try 6. So 6 times 6 is 36, carry a 3, and 6 times 6 again is 36, plus the 3 is 39. And if I subtract, I'm going to get 14 minus 6 is 8, 10 minus 9 is 1, and I get a remainder of 18. That's definitely less than 66, so bring down the 3, and 66 goes into 83. It almost goes in 3 times, but not quite. And again, be really careful. The decimal is going to go right there. This 10, let's go ahead and erase it at this point because we don't want it to think it's part of our quotient. 2 times 66 is 132. And we subtract and we get 51, which is less than 66. Again, let's add a 0 and bring it down. 66 goes into 510. Ooh, that's a little bit harder. We might want to do a side problem on this. 66 times 8 is 48. Carry a 4. It's going to be 528. Not quite going to fit. So we're going to try 7. 7 times 66 would be 42. Well, 7 times 6 is 42. Carry a 4. 7 times 6 is again 42, plus the 4 is 46. And again, you could just do that problem over here. 66 times 7 is 42, and 42 and 4 is 46. And so we copy that in. Go ahead and subtract. 10 minus 2 is 8. This is now a 0. We borrow a 1 from there. 10 minus 6 is 4. Okay, and at this point, I believe that they wanted us to find the gas mileage to the nearest tenth. So we've got the 10th place, but we've got to go one more 0 to make sure that we're correct. And we don't even have to finish this problem because we know that 7 is going to work. It'll give us 462 again. And we don't even need to do the subtraction. It's going to fit. So this is going to round up to 62.8 miles per hour. And we put a box around that. And that completes all of those problems that we've been working on the last couple days. So I hope this is helpful. Please feel free, if you're having any trouble with this, to try one of these problems from scratch and maybe follow along with the video to help you out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop now. Have a great weekend, and I will see you in class on Monday, where we'll go over this one last time. We'll go over the 10-10 problems you had for homework, and we'll start reviewing for our test on Wednesday. Good night, everybody.